Hello everyone and welcome to this video where I'm going to talk about the one single biggest mistake that I've ever made in Stormworks that ended up costing me lots of hours, costing in time spent to try to solve it, and I'm going to teach you guys how to avoid it so you don't end up having the same issue as me, so follow along. Now oftentimes when I've just released a brand new creation, the people that are testing it end up reporting to me there's like, a random discoloration or random cell or block that's painted incorrectly. Now the reason behind this has a story. This is what I'm talking about. If a cell or block looks like that randomly, and obviously very easy fix, but why is that the case? Well, let me tell you, way back when I was developing my first couple ships, I'd end up with a problem where the ship would randomly start to sink. This is a case in point. Maybe not sink, but definitely something weird happening. And obviously I know what I've done here, but I did not know what I did way back when, because pretty much what had happened, and I'll get to the point, is that in my editing and kind of rushing around and, modeling this, modeling that, instead of having a random block selected, I was in the delete mode, okay? And I'd maybe been deleting like stuff, doing a design, and without even realizing it, I'd clicked a random location that I deleted. Now it was not this obvious. I must have been working inside the gas tank, okay? So not even on the outside of the hull, because maybe it would be easy to see a hull mistake on the exterior, but rather it was something very subtle. Now this one I marked up with this red, but it was very, very subtle and not obvious where that I had in fact even deleted anything. And that was purely because I was in this delete mode, and it took me maybe 4 hours to find the problem. And I mean, not 4 straight hours, and this is obviously when I was just getting started, but I'd checked every part of the hull. I'd inspected everything on the hull, and I've been losing my mind. I was like, the ship was done. It was looking like almost like this, and I just could not figure out what on earth had happened. So I'm going to tell you, first of all, hint, if you're having a problem where your ship is sinking, and you don't know where the breach in the hull is, first things first, disable your fuel tank, meaning go into your fuel tank, reduce the fuel level to 0, spawn it, and see first of all if it still happens. In this case now, with 0 fuel, the boat is acting properly, so that means the breach is not in the exterior of the hull, but rather it means that the fuel tank is actually spilling into the rest of the ship. And then if you still don't know where the hole is, okay, you go back into your fuel tank, pull up the fuel level, and you don't even have to do no clipping, just press P to go into photo mode, and you can inspect all the parts of your ship. So in photo mode, you can now go into here and see this area is dry, okay? So the leak is not to this area. We go here, that's our fuel tank, okay? And then you'd go into the next area here, and you'd be like, wait a second, my whole engine room is flooded. And then you'd start to look where on earth it can be flooded from the engine room. And in this case, you'd go to the fuel tank, and you'd look at the wall that connects the fuel tank with the engine room, and you'd hopefully find this issue. Now this is a three-way hole. It actually connects the fuel tank with the engine room with the side ballast tank. So that's a big problem, and that's also why it starts to tip over onto its left side, because that left ballast tank is fully flooded. But that experience taught me something. It taught me to not randomly explore my ship while in the erase mode, because mistakes are easy to happen. You don't even realize that you've clicked the button and all of a sudden there's a hole. Now sometimes it'll be easy to find, but other times you won't even notice. It'll maybe compromise a room. For example, if you put a hole here, or rather here, it may compromise this room, and now this room is no longer airtight. It's now part of this chamber, if you know how the physics of the game works. So now these two rooms are actually one room as far as the game's concerned, and if you flood this area gets flooded. And if it was under the bed or somewhere very subtle, that would be very hard to find. So from then on, what I always do is I try to either be having the single block as I'm exploring my ship, and by exploring I mean building it. Like as I'm building it, I try to have the block selected, because worst case scenario, I place a random block somewhere and yeah, it looks stupid, but it won't destroy the ship. If anything, it'll just be annoying to look at visually. Sometimes you may not even notice it. Like if you were in your engine room or gas tank or ballast tank or something, and you're with this, you know, you accidentally clicked it, that won't affect anything. That will just live there. But imagine if you, God forbid, deleted a microcontroller and had to redo it, or something on the hull itself. That's a big problem. But there's even something better than that, because adding a random block adds weight, it's awkward. I just go around with a very odd color, like a very bright fluorescent color, usually green or pink or red. In that case, if I do accidentally press, that will be very easy to find. All of you guys can tell me, oh, there's a color mistake. And even if it's white, like, you won't get any flack for having that in your creation. You can easily come and repair it. It's not a big deal. But you won't add a block. Most of the time, if you're in a white room, it won't even matter, because it's so, like, if I just have a white selected, it won't even do anything. And if I'm in, especially in the microcontroller or the gas tank, it really will not matter. But even somewhere where it will matter, worst case, you get an unpainted cell. You don't destroy your creation. You don't have to troubleshoot, problem solve, find what happened. Because if you delete a microcontroller, you may not even realize you deleted the microcontroller, but now you have to, you'll see your systems are not working, or if you've deleted a battery or some type of electrical thing. So I'd recommend always being inside paint mode if you're just cycling around your creation. If you're not building anything, if you're maybe looking for the next phase of your project, do this. Otherwise, you can end up with a massive mistake that's going to cost you a lot of time, and you'll be upset until you solve it. So, thank you all for watching. Hope you learned something. Hope that helped, and happy Stormworksing.